The big question was going to be like, who would be our final speaker? And I think it's kind of cool like that we've had some really strong presentations today. But I also want to call out, in a world where men dominate the podium, let's give it up for some of these kick-ass women who are bringing us messages that and only fitting that our final speaker is one of our incredible female docs, and Lav is just, when the first time I met Lav, by the way, most of you don't know this, but she turned me down. And I don't like when I don't get my way, but we recruited Lav out of residency, and she told me no. And I was like, I gotta tell you, I was devastated. I never told you that, Lav, but it took me a while. What was it? And so Lav went off and lived her life and practiced for a year. And then we kept talking, and a year later, she joined us, and I am so happy to this day that she did. She brings an incredible element to our Shoreline Perio team. The more I learn about Lav, the more I'm impressed with her in how mindful and thoughtful she is, how adventurous she is in so many surprising ways, and how much she challenges herself. She's a periodontist who does beautiful surgical periodontal plastic surgery. Anyone who's worked with her knows that she's got just beautiful skill sets. And she's just a beautiful person. So it's my pleasure to introduce our final speaker of the day, Dr. Lav.
Go get it.
Thanks, Greg. That was really sweet. Hi, everyone. Have you ever accomplished something that was supposed to feel amazing, like getting that dream job, graduating from school, or just hitting some big milestone, only to feel unsatisfied or unfulfilled? Like maybe you were chasing someone else's version of success. So before I begin to share my story, I want to define the word expectations. So expectations are a strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future, or they're a belief that someone will or should achieve something. Now, we fall pressure to so many expectations on a daily basis, whether it's from our family, our workplace, culture, society, or even self-imposed. And expectations can be a good thing because they can push us to strive to achieve more, but sometimes they can box us into these paths that don't necessarily align with our true passions or fulfill us. So, I want you to keep that in mind as I share my story. I'm a first-generation American, raised by Indian parents, and like so many immigrants, they came to the US with barely anything. They always told me the story about how they arrived to America with $20 in their pocket and built a better life for us. And I saw all the sacrifices and the hard work they made to give me this life, but with that came a very linear definition of success, one that was measurable and all about attaining status. So, in my family, there were only 3 acceptable career paths: doctor, engineer, or lawyer. Anything else meant you were a failure. And some of you may be familiar with that stereotype and the dynamic between Indian parents and children. But for those of you that aren't, I want to share this clip by comedian Hassan Minhaj because he captures this all a little too well.
Have you ever seen an Indian kid win the spelling bee? Incredible. Ice water in the veins, Kobe. That kid's not gonna choke on camera. He's been slapped on camera. Of course he can spell Canadal.
Canadal.
Look at that face. Nothing. Nothing. He's 12 years old. Nothing. This kid just won $30,000 cash. Nothing. And people are like, oh, where does that come from? Look at his parents. Look at this kid's parents. Your son just won the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Look at his brother. Look at his brother. His brother's like, I'm fucked. I'm fucked. The bar is way too high. I should kill myself. I should kill myself. People are like, hey, where does Bob... Have you ever seen an Indian kid win the spelling bee?
So he's hilarious, but that hit so close to home for me when I heard that. My parents are great at comparing, and so I became great at comparing too. And I always felt like I had to be better than my siblings, my cousins in India that I barely knew, and my family friends' kids. There was always this unspoken pressure to excel even when I was already achieving. So I did everything I could to make them proud. In high school, I was the overachiever, that straight A student, involved in student government, played the viola, was captain of the track team, competed in synchronized skating. And all of those things helped me get into a good college. And then I decided to pursue dental school, although it took my parents some time to come around to the fact that I wasn't going to be a real doctor. And then I decided to go on to more schooling and get my residency in periodontics. And now here I am at Shoreline Perio as a periodontist. But in the midst of it all, little 11-year-old Lavanya developed a passion for figure skating after watching the 2002 Winter Olympics. My parents begrudgingly took me to the rink. It's a really expensive sport, but they didn't think I was going anywhere with it, and it would just be a hobby to humor me. Most skaters start when they can barely walk when they're 2 or 3 years old and become successful. Within my first year, I ended up joining a synchronized skating team, Team Millennium, and I ended up going to regionals and nationals with them, and I fell in love with the sport. But my career was short-lived. It was only 5 years, and then it came time to apply for college. And my parents were very strict, and they told me that I needed to focus on my studies. I wasn't going to the Olympics, and I wasn't going to make a career out of figure skating. And there was truth to that statement. So I quit. So now, fast forward, I went through all the studies, and I'm a periodontist, which is supposed to be that pinnacle of success. But it didn't feel like it. I mean, according to most people, I've made it, right? Well, you think you come out of school, you'll gain respect, earn good money, and life will be smooth sailing. Well, that wasn't the case, and reality hit me really hard. The first couple years in practice were brutal. As you all know, patients can be rude, disrespectful, difficult, and I'm a younger female doctor of color, and those are all barriers to people seeing me as successful. I also had to learn how to overcome and move past post-procedural complications, and on top of it all, I constantly worried about keeping my referrals happy. And school doesn't prepare you for any of that. So naturally, my anxiety levels skyrocketed. And for a while, I thought, if I just keep pushing forward, advancing my clinical skills, climb that leadership ladder, I'll eventually feel some sort of satisfaction, fulfillment, or worthiness. But I realized I wasn't going to find what I was looking for at work. And instead, I found myself back on the ice. Now, I always thought I peaked in high school, but it wasn't because of all those accolades or the achievements. It was because I was doing the one thing that I was truly passionate about, the one thing that no one ever told me that I had to do, and that was ice skating. I mean, I had so many excuses not to get back out there. I'm too old. I'm basically geriatric for the sport now. Not strong enough. Don't have the time. It's a lot of money. And I'm not flexible enough. After doing dentistry, my back has no business doing that anymore. You can even ask Jersey. I could barely touch my toes last year. So I thought, if I'm not going to be extraordinary, then what's the point? But when I got back on the ice, I felt such a feeling of pride. And I know that's not an emotion that we normally seek out, but I couldn't pinpoint the exact reason that I was so in love with this sport. It wasn't just happiness or a sense of peace, which are all fleeting emotions. It was this feeling of pride. And I happened to come across a podcast where psychologist Jessica Tracy was talking about authentic pride versus hubristic pride. And I was like, oh, so this is why I feel this way. So here come a couple more definitions for you. Authentic pride is rooted in effort, perseverance, and growth. We enjoy the process because we're actually proud of who we're becoming. Hubristic pride, on the other hand, is a little more competitive. It's all based on external validation and feeling superior to others. So I thought her concepts were really interesting. I ended up reading her book, Pride, The Secret of Success. And in that, she says, in order to feel pride, we first need to have a sense of self. And she breaks that down into the me self and the myself. So I'm about to dive into some existentialism here. The me is the socially constructed self. It's how we think others perceive us and how we measure up to societal expectations. We seek approval, status, and recognition, even if it doesn't truly align with what fulfills us. The myself, on the other hand, is the inner authentic self. It's who we truly are, independent of societal labels and expectations. It's based on internal values, passions, and personal fulfillment. And this is more in line with that authentic pride. So we all need a me self to a certain extent to be a normal functioning human in society, but that myself is not so easy to find. It requires some introspection, self-awareness, and maybe even unlearning some of that social conditioning. So I was hoping at the end of her book she'd have some actionable items on how to connect with that myself, because that would have made this TED Talk a lot easier. But she didn't, and so I came up with a couple things to think about if you guys are in a position like me. 1, separate what you want from what you were told to want. 2, pay attention to what energizes you and what drains you. And 3, experiment without judgment. So for the longest time, I felt like all of my energy and emotions were just going into work, so I sat down and thought about what I wanted my life and my career to look like now, knowing that it could evolve over time. But I distinctly remember having this meeting with Dr. Toback, where I asked him if I could take a step back from the lead doctor position, because to me, that was draining on top of work being physically and emotionally draining for me already. And it wasn't what I truly wanted. And I said to him, I feel like there's this expectation to be on this upward trajectory, become lead doctor, and then partner. To which, of course, he knew what to say. He said, Lav, I don't have any expectations of you. I just want you to be happy and stay passionate about your work. So in that moment, I realized how much I was projecting all of these expectations that I was conditioned to feel my entire life. For the longest time, I thought being successful in life and in my career meant becoming a renowned periodontist, being one that gives national podium lectures, publishes papers, and being recognized by my name. But that's not what I wanted. I don't need to be the face of periodontics. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy the work that I do and will always strive to be better and provide the best care for my patients because I have that innate drive. But what I truly wanted was a career that would allow me to have a fulfilling life outside of work. And so that's why I took the leap of faith and I started skating again. And I went in with no judgment because I knew I wasn't going to be as good as I was before. And I always say it may have been a gift that I started later in life because I never faced those pressures that the younger skaters faced in the world of competitive figure skating. And so now as an adult, I get to experience an arena with zero expectations, no outside pressures, and I just get to shut out all of the noise, the stressors from life, work, my patients. So if I don't answer my phone on a Friday, it's because I'm out on the ice. And I just get to truly enjoy the process, and I get to see what my body's still capable of doing, and it's an expressive art form for me. But I'll be honest, that process is not always so pretty. I fall quite a bit when I'm attempting new skills. And between doing dentistry, making it to the gym for my personal training sessions, and skating, I don't think my body will ever not be sore again. And in my walk-up song, Fort Minor says, success is 50% pain. It's probably more like 80% for me. But why do I do it? Why do I put myself through something painful, hard, potentially even dangerous? Why does anyone do it? It's because of that authentic pride. It's rooted in intrinsic motivation. And it's the process itself that we find rewarding. Each small success reframes failure as growth, and it results in this earned confidence because you are the cause of the good thing that happened, not someone else or not something else. So for me, success isn't about the titles and recognitions anymore. It's about being able to live life on my own terms, that I can be a skilled periodontist and a skater. So I want to ask you this. What expectations are shaping your choices? Are they yours or are they someone else's? What would you do differently if you let go and gave yourself permission to embrace what truly brings you joy? I think answering those questions may help you find your own version of success. That's a word I'll let you guys define on your own because it's different for each of us. But before I let you go, I'll show you a little clip of what my version of success looks like.